Ebstein's anomaly is one of the cyanotic congenital heart diseases in which natural survival to adulthood is not uncommon. Echo picture demonstrates the gross distal displacement of the septal tricuspid leaflet and the atrialized portion of right ventricle marked as ARV. A portion of the right ventricle is atrialized due to distal displacement of the septal and posterior leaflets of the tricuspid valve. The anterior tricuspid leaflet is large and sail-like. It produces a loud tricuspid component of first heart sound while closing, which is called the sail sound. About half of the patients with Ebstein's anomaly can have atrial septal defect or patent foramen ovale. In Ebstein's anomaly, the right to left shunting is not due to pulmonary hypertension but because the tricuspid regurgitation jet is directed across the atrial septal defect. Almost half of the patients with Ebstein's anomaly have evidence of a right-sided axillary pathway with a WPW syndrome. This can be associated with atrioventricular reentrant tachycardias as well. Right atrial overload with tall Himalayan P waves and polyphasic or splintered QRS complexes are the other ECG hallmarks of Ebstein's anomaly. The age of presentation in Ebstein's anomaly may vary from childhood to adulthood depending on factors like the severity of tricuspid regurgitation, associated abnormalities like atrial septal defect, and the pulmonary vascular resistance in the newborn. Auscultatory hallmarks of Ebstein's anomaly are multiple heart sounds, loud T1 or sail sound, and a scratchy superficial diastolic murmur due to tricuspid stenosis. In the adult, a striking feature is often the huge enlargement of the cardiac silhouette, contributed mainly by the large right atrium and the atrialized portion of the right ventricle. This X-ray from a person with Ebstein's anomaly shows cardiomegaly which is not so huge and right atrial enlargement. Cardiomegaly with relative oligemi of the lung fields and reduced cardiac motion can produce a stenciled out appearance in Ebstein's anomaly. The large right atrium and an association of right-sided axillary pathways make Ebstein's anomaly prone for supraventricular tachycardias. Localization and ablation of axillary pathways in Ebstein's anomaly is difficult due to the large right atrium and distorted anatomy. The atrialized portion of right ventricle will show ventricular electrograms and an atrial pressure tracing. This is known as Hernandez sign. Hernandez sign is elicited using a catheter which can record electrogram as well as measure the pressure, known as sucker catheter. Ebstein's type of anomaly of the left atrioventricular valve is seen in levotransposition of great arteries, known also as congenitally corrected transposition, LTGA and CTGA. Ebstein's anomaly has been associated with maternal intake of lithium during pregnancy. MOD echo in Ebstein's anomaly shows the delay between the mitral and tricuspid valve closures. Both valves are imaged in the same parasternal view in Ebstein's anomaly. The distal displacement of the septal tricuspid leaflet is the characteristic echocardiographic finding in Ebstein's anomaly, noted in apical four-chamber view. Surgical repair is by Da Silva's cone procedure, which constructs a funnel-like valve using the native valve leaflets. This avoids the problems associated with artificial valves, including bioprosthetic valves, especially in children. Here are a few journal references on Ebstein's anomaly. In one study, cone procedure group had 85% reduction in tricuspid regurgitation compared to 56% in the conventional group at discharge from hospital. The cone procedure involves detachment of tricuspid leaflets, division of chordae, plication of the tricuspid annulus, rotation of leaflets, and final reinsertion of the leaflets in the modified tricuspid valve annulus. Since cone procedure has become an effective hemodynamic intervention for Ebstein's anomaly, late mortality due to arrhythmias assume more importance. Periprocedural electrophysiological study and ablation of potential arrhythmic circuits have been suggested as a preventive strategy. This aggressive protocol documented significant electrophysiological findings in 69%, including 8 patients in whom there was no prior suspicion of arrhythmia. 17 of these patients underwent catheter ablation, while the remainder had intraoperative interventions. The strategy could prevent sudden death in those treated with this protocol. Real-time intraoperative 3D transesophageal echocardiographic guidance for cone procedure has been used successfully as in case of mitral valve repair. Here are a couple of important references, including the original publication from De Silva. Few more salient references for the topic. ECG in Epstein's anomaly of tricuspid valve showing right axis deviation of QRS, notched R waves in 2, 3 and AVF and V1 suggesting fragmented QRS. Peaked P waves indicate a right atrial abnormality, though the typical voltage criteria for right atrial enlargement of more than 0.25 mV is not satisfied. Fragmented QRS occurs in Epstein's anomaly due to abnormal conduction in the atrialized right ventricle. A portion of the right ventricle is atrialized because of distal displacement of the septal and posterior leaflets of tricuspid valve. They are also prone for atrial arrhythmias due to dilated right atrium. There is a risk of stroke because of potential paradoxical embolism due to intermittent right to left shunting across a patent foramen ovale. Earlier, the descriptions for the QRS abnormality in Epstein's anomaly were splintered QRS, fractionated QRS, or second QRS. Intracardiac mapping has demonstrated late depolarization during this period. Fragmented QRS is associated with a higher arrhythmic risk and a larger atrialized right ventricular area. They also had more severe tricuspid regurgitation. The extent of fragmented QRS is measured by the number of leads showing the FQRS. QRS duration is longer in those with FQRS. Those with increased QRS duration have a higher mortality on long-term follow-up after corrective surgery. Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome can be associated with Epstein's anomaly due to accessory atrioventricular bypass tracts. They can present with reentrant supraventricular tachycardia. First set of references on ECG in Epstein's anomaly of tricuspid valve. Second set of references on ECG in Epstein's anomaly of tricuspid valve. ECG in Epstein's anomaly of tricuspid valve showing right bundle branch block pattern with polyphasic and splintered QRS. The QRS is wide and lead V2 shows RS pattern mimicking right bundle branch block. Lead 2 shows multiple small deflections, that is splintered QRS. Slurred S wave in lateral leads also form part of the RBBB pattern. The duration of QRS has been linked to right ventricular enlargement and dysfunction in Epstein's anomaly. A larger atrialized right ventricular volume has been noted in these cases. As a corollary, those with near normal ECG would have mild morphological abnormalities and a better clinical profile. Splintered and polyphasic QRS of Epstein's anomaly can also be considered as fragmented QRS as per the new terminology. Fragmented QRS is a marker of myocardial scar and consequent arrhythmias in ischemic and non-ischemic cardiomyopathy. Similarly, fragmented QRS has been shown to be associated with larger region of atrialized right ventricle and increased risk of arrhythmic events in Epstein's anomaly. Epstein's anomaly may be associated with right-sided axillary pathway in ventricular pre-excitation, that is WPW syndrome, with or without atrioventricular reentrant tachycardia. Multiple axillary pathways can occur and radiofrequency catheter ablation is effective. Rare cases of ventricular tachycardia with Epstein's anomaly have been reported in literature. One was a case of sustained monomorphic ventricular tachycardia, and received an implantable defibrillator. Peritricuspid re-entry has been documented in another case of ventricular tachycardia in Epstein's anomaly. Scar formation in the inferior atrialized portion of the right ventricle formed the substrate for the re-entrant ventricular tachycardia in this case. Yet another young girl with Epstein's anomaly and ventricular tachycardia received an entirely subcutaneous defibrillator. Tall P waves due to gross right atrial enlargement in Epstein's anomaly has been called Himalayan P waves, though not seen in the ECG illustrated here. Himalayan P waves are also described in tricuspid atresia. Here are some important references for ECG abnormalities discussed in Epstein's anomaly. Discussion on echocardiogram in Epstein's anomaly of tricuspid valve. Parasternal short axis view in Epstein's anomaly showing the dilated right ventricular outflow tract. AO aorta, LA left atrium, RA right atrium. Parasternal long axis view in Epstein's anomaly showing the dilated right ventricular outflow tract. LV left ventricle. Dilated RVOT can be appreciated clinically as a wavy pulsation in the left parasternal region, which is better seen than felt. There is no sustained heave as with left parasternal heave of right ventricular hypertrophy. Dilated RVOT is a feature seen in right ventricular endomyocardial fibrosis as well. In that case, there is no displacement of tricuspid valve. Instead, there is fibrosis of right ventricular apex. Apical four-chamber view in Epstein's anomaly showing the grossly displaced septal tricuspid leaflet. Normal distance between the septal attachments of septal tricuspid leaflet and anterior mitral leaflet is only about 5 mm. Apical four-chamber view in Epstein's anomaly showing severe tricuspid regurgitation. Left ventricular systolic and diastolic dysfunction have been reported in Epstein's anomaly of tricuspid valve, presumably due to the left ventricular fibrosis seen in these cases. Left ventricular fibrosis can be due to arterial oxygen desaturation. Left ventricular non-compaction is another potential cause of left ventricular dysfunction in cases in which it is associated. In a study from Mayo Clinic, 50 of the 495 patients who underwent surgery for Epstein's anomaly had moderate or severe left ventricular dysfunction documented on preoperative echocardiogram. Left ventricular function improved in all but 4 of these patients after surgery. There was no deterioration of left ventricular function after surgery in any of the cases. Left ventricular diastolic dysfunction in Epstein's anomaly could be due to right ventricular volume overload, and it can persist even after intracardiac repair. Here are the first set of references on left ventricular dysfunction in Epstein's anomaly. Second set of references on left ventricular dysfunction in Epstein's anomaly of tricuspid valve. Discussion on pregnancy in Epstein's anomaly of the tricuspid valve. Several studies have evaluated the outcome of pregnancy in Epstein's anomaly. Donnelly and colleagues reported on 42 pregnancies in 12 women with Epstein's anomaly. Pregnancy was well tolerated in those who did not have cyanosis or arrhythmia. Though the neonatal outcome was generally good, there was increased risk of prematurity and dysmaturity in babies born to mothers with cyanosis. The authors concluded that maternal cyanosis or arrhythmia were indications for closer maternal and fetal observation. Another study by Connolly and colleagues from Mayo Clinic reported on 111 pregnancies in 44 women with Epstein's anomaly. 89% of the deliveries were vaginal delivery and 11% were cesarean section, and 76% were live births. Birth weight of infants born to cyanotic patients were significantly lower. The study had also checked on the offspring of males with Epstein's anomaly. It was found that 6% of offspring of women with Epstein's anomaly had congenital heart disease, while 1% of offspring of men with Epstein's anomaly had congenital heart disease. This group of authors also concluded that pregnancy is well tolerated in women with Epstein's anomaly. In their study, there were no serious pregnancy-related maternal complications like maternal death, stroke, congestive heart failure, arrhythmia, or endocarditis. While the above two studies were in 1990s, a report from Japan in 2018 included 17 women with Epstein's anomaly who delivered between 1995 to 2015. Delivery was by cesarean section in 8 women, including 9 pregnancies, while 9 women, including 14 pregnancies, underwent vaginal delivery. Elective cesarean section was done in those with significant heart failure or arrhythmias and when 2 or more of the following criteria were present: cardiothoracic ratio 60% or more, moderate or severe tricuspid regurgitation, tricuspid regurgitation jet pressure gradient 35 mm of mercury or more during pregnancy. They found that cardiothoracic ratio and tricuspid regurgitation pressure gradient increased during pregnancy. NYHA functional class deteriorated from class 1 to class 2 or 3 in 5 cases during pregnancy. The authors advised monitoring of clinical and hemodynamic changes throughout pregnancy to minimize maternal cardiac risk and for selection of mode of delivery. Echocardiogram in a patient with Epstein's anomaly and severe tricuspid regurgitation. The mosaic-colored jet is occupying almost the whole of the atrialized right ventricle and right atrium. Another previous report had 13 patients with Epstein's anomaly having 27 pregnancies and 21 live births from 1985 to 2011. 4 of the patients had atrial septal defect and 6 had associated Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. 2 patients had undergone closure of AST and 1 had undergone tricuspid valve replacement prior to pregnancy. In 17 pregnancies, patients remained in NYHA class 1 and had full-term vaginal delivery. Cesarean sections were done in 3. 20 of the 21 babies had good neonatal prognosis without congenital heart disease. 1 died due to prematurity. There were 6 spontaneous abortions in this series. Authors concluded that maternal and fetal outcomes were good in patients with Epstein's anomaly and NYHA functional class 1. Tachyarrhythmias and cardiac failure must be looked for in pregnancy. Another smaller study had 8 pregnancies in 4 women with Epstein's anomaly, all resulting in vaginal delivery. 2 babies were delivered prematurely. 1 patient had right heart failure during early pregnancy. Another had arrhythmia during labor, which was managed medically. Another patient had arrhythmia in postpartum period, which was also managed medically. Authors mentioned that when a woman with Epstein's anomaly reaches childbearing age, fertility is not affected even in cyanotic women. They noted that pregnancy outcome is usually favorable under close supervision of obstetrician and cardiologist. In addition to these studies, there are several single case reports of successful pregnancies in women with Epstein's anomaly in literature, though the potential risks mentioned above must be borne in mind. Careful monitoring of maternal and fetal status is needed. Pregnancies in those with cyanosis, arrhythmia, and heart failure carry a higher maternal and fetal risk. Epstein's type of anomaly of left AV valve in corrected transposition. Several patients with congenitally corrected transposition of great arteries have abnormal systemic tricuspid valve, left AV valve. Criteria for Epstein's anomaly may be satisfied in 15 to 50% of cases. It may be associated with severe AV valve regurgitation.